Hello, everyone, for absolutely the first time and definitely not a redo after I realized that I was muted. Completely, absolutely did not happen. I have no idea what you're talking about. So, thank you for joining me on another episode of Tabletop Tabletalk, where today I want to talk about world building stuff. And the reason I call this world building part 3 ish is because there's so many aspects that go into it. There's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that I like talking about. For some people, it's considered world building. For others, it's adjacent to world building. It's letting the world run itself, not so much build, but let it just exist and have a life of its own. So there's a bunch of stuff that we're going to talk about today. One of the things that I love the most, that's a little just extra bonus, is when you talk about like food and the, what would be the word, the culinary culture of the area that you have your group in. The culinary culture. I got there. But first off, the general introduction stuff. If you're watching with me on Twitch right now, thank you for coming in and joining me. If you're watching on YouTube later, thank you for checking out the show, and I appreciate all of the input, ideas. I had a couple people actually like start asking questions in the YouTube comments or like asking questions on Twitter stuff. So it's exciting because then we're getting those ahead of time. If you have any questions during the stream, remember to put the word question in all caps and then your question afterwards. We're still raising money for Code 2040 for Black and Latinx in technology and gaming. We'll probably be taking a little bit of a tabletop break later on in December, just so that I can sit and chill, relax, because I have a bunch of stuff that is finally reaching the precipice behind the scenes, and there will be so much that I'm excited to share with all of you very soon, and I'm so glad. The hard work pays off. What else? Thank you again for Roll20 for giving me the time to sit here and talk with all of you in a fun format where we can try to be a little creative. Not necessarily an episode where I feel like, hey, you need to get a pen and paper or something to write with, but you might like some of the ideas. If you watch it on YouTube later, I realize you can always like go back to stuff and reload it or rewatch it. But we're going to talk about food and making the world feel alive and what ways the world can feel alive that might be the most comfortable for you. So right off the bat, let's talk about food. Yesterday, for many people, was Turkey Day. They got to eat a lot of food. This morning, I had a bowl of sweet potatoes, and I am totally, absolutely fine and didn't take a nap before the show and then almost slept in. Didn't happen. But so something that's really interesting is, like in my Monday show, we play Rhyme of the Frost Maiden. We play it on the D&D channel, and we actually just got a tavern. And so one of the really interesting things that we get to think about now is, what kind of food does our tavern sell? What kind of food is our tavern's specialty in? Does our tavern have alcohol? Does it have wine? Does it have rum? Does it have ale? Like, what does it have? And one of the things that I did was I looked up a couple of different like generators for taverns and such. I found one using the same website that I did the maps with all of you last week. And I found one that had on Donjon, it had like different types of inns. So it had like poor inns, or it had like common inns and stuff like that. And it was asking like kind of like patrons they have. Does it have adventurers? Does it have townsfolk? And that kind of world building stuff was something that I never even really considered. So when you have this, if you have this city that you're building for your party to be in, what are the residents like? Which seems like such a simple thing, I feel like at first, but then when I really start to delve into it, it changes my whole perception of what I'm going to add on to it. If the city is primarily adventurers, then there's probably going to be more than just one weaponsmith, more than just one armorsmith. There's probably going to be plenty of inns for places for them to stay. There might not be as many farmers and market shops. And if there is a marketplace, it's probably a trade of interesting items, equipment, gear, things that were found or scavenged from creatures and on the adventures. So like that first question of what are the residents like of this place? Quiet phone. I'm talking. And when you're world building, how often does that question come up for you? And this is not a situation where if it doesn't come up often, then you're not a good designer. And this is not a circumstance where like it has to be something you constantly think of. But how often does it come up for you? And if it does, what is it what triggers that? So there's a generated tavern I have right here, and I'm going to read off a couple of information for you. This is just building the world, and then we're going to evolve on how it moves forward. What happens after we have this information? So we have a location. In an adventurous district near the Hero's Gate, it stands adjacent to a tavern called the Broken Arrow. So Omegadorian, you'll be able to see this on YouTube. It should be up within the next day or two. I'll try to have it up sooner than later. It'll be up on the Roll20 YouTube. Thank you, Salty Ginger. Yep, perfect. But so yeah, we have a location. Description: the inn is a grand timber and brick building with a large cellar. Accommodations consist of several large rooms with beds and woolen mattresses. This is the kind of stuff that it isn't necessarily something you have to have in your games. And I say that about pretty much everything we talk about. It's the kind of stuff of how in-depth do you want to go into this with your party. If you want to make this inn more important, you can try to give it more details to have it have more significance. You don't have to necessarily name the innkeeper, but if you want to build on them, you can. But then we go into even the menu. So the menu in this tavern that we generated has literally only 2 things listed on the menu. It could be because they don't have very many resources, but maybe we can add to the world building. The party is seeking out things to add to the menu. But it has baked phoenix and apricot pie. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means that there is baked phoenix inside of it. And a glass of gin. So Tiny Kiwi said, one of my favorite towns I've played in was created by my DM and modeled like an artsy autumnal college town. Our first scene had us exploring a food market with tons of stalls and exotic and interesting lands. Yeah. And Edward said, I love this. I think food is a great way to shape an area because it speaks to climate, development, social structure, etc. So yeah, so there's the first thing is baked phoenix and apricot pie with a glass of gin. The second thing is baked scallop with ginger and poked eggs with a glass of brandy. So right here, the menu and this food that we have, what would be interesting? What could we add to that? How can we add to this in a way that like makes this world meal feel more alive? Is the apricot pie one of the favorites of people here? And this is the kind of stuff as well. If you don't have all of the answers, roll for it. And I don't mean in a roll of like, well, all of you know that this is this way. No, you could literally take a D20 and you see this. So you see this baked phoenix and apricot pie. And the question is, how tasty is it? And if you don't know, you could literally gauge on a scale of 1 to 20, on a scale of 1 to 6, how tasty it is. So I'm going to roll it right here. It's a 4. On a scale of 1 to 20, it's a 14. So it's pretty good. Is it a favorite of the locals? Is it something that people keep coming back for? Is it a seasonal thing? If it is a seasonal thing, what season is your world currently in? Is it fall right now? And if it's fall, what flavor, what meals, what delights come out in winter? And that's something that like in Rime of the Frost Maiden, we're kind of getting a chance to explore ourselves, because we have this tavern and in essentially a very frozen, not necessarily wasteland, but a frozen area, the frozen harsh environment. What is our food going to be like? We've come across a moose that was a gigantic creature. We've come across elk as well. So those 2 things are large aspects of what we actually put on our menu. We were saying that we would be serving moose in loose portions with our tavern. It was something that was really interesting because then we were considering it. So Omegadorian, what if one of your players is allergic to flour or the berry? My brother can't eat blueberries or he'll die. See, and that's interesting. Yes, that right there. How often do you have allergies in your games? How often do you have people consciously aware of that stuff? There is a popular YouTuber who is deathly allergic to peanuts. What if the tavern keeper, the tavern owner, the chef, what if they are allergic to something that is edible, something that is commonly eaten? Yes. So what if you have a chef who is lactose intolerant, but the chef always tastes everything before they prepare it, like a slight bit of it, just to know that it's right? It means they're probably not going to be making things with dairy. They're probably not going to be serving cheese or milk or that sort of stuff when it's being prepared. So that right there is really an interesting thing that you could add to your worlds. And it's something that is so close to home and close to life. Tiny Kiwi said our party member made their fire genasi barbarian unknowingly allergic to seafood, almost died for it. Like that right there. Right there. So that's something that would be really interesting, at least for me, to see more often. How, anyone watching, what are you allergic to? If anything, I sometimes have pollen allergies. I'm not allergic to any foods, thankfully. And I'm very fortunate because that can be a deathly terrible thing. But if you had any allergies and that your character was affected by those allergies, what would it relate to? What things can you not digest that maybe your character can't? And so Blair Brooks said that would change the clientele. Absolutely. Absolutely would change the clientele. If it's a place that has more of an exotic, like, culinary expertise, it might be something that only like nobles would want to go to, just because it's fancy. It's like that sense of caviar. Some people love it, and it's usually more of a upper class thing, especially in America generally. That kind of aspect, that kind of extra might change it. Some people don't eat red meat at all. Some people only eat fish. They are vegetarian or pescatarian. And often it's sometimes looked at like, oh, it's taboo that someone is serving things very specifically because of diets. But that also does change the clientele that you're going to get. If you have a shop that's not necessarily by the ocean or by the sea, but most other places are serving elk and serving deer and serving like mutton or bison or whatever it is, and you have this one place just serve mainly fish as a type of meat or their comparison for meat. Why is that? Now, you don't even have to elaborate on that. You don't have to go into this detailed explanation that the owner of the shop only really likes to serve fish along with their other things because they feel like it pairs the best, because they feel like the fish pairs the best with the wine or the alcohol that they serve. But that's the kind of stuff that goes into like the diet of world building that can get really, really interesting. And if you wanted to, it could lead people into exploring more about it. There is a shopkeep. So actually, let me read. Omega Dorian also reminds me about Burn Notice, where the main character used a person's peanut allergy to get information while holding the EpiPen. Yeah, like it's something that's so important. It could literally be that a villain who is trying to befriend the party, and this is absolutely terrible, prefacing this with it's terrible, is going to talk to the party and try to sway them over, and the party doesn't know who the villain is. And one of the player characters is maybe allergic to something, allergic to a seasoning, or again, like peanuts or almonds or anything like of that category. And the villain tries to mix some of that in with the food. It's literally a poison. Well, not literally, but you get my point. It's a terrible but unique way that poison could be applied, because it's a whole extra level of danger, but it's just from everyday things. I wonder if, like, depending on the universe, Well, yeah, it wouldn't be affected by something that is like specifically targeting poison. Don't. This is not Gabe enthusing you to use in-game allergies against your players or your party, but it's interesting. Oh, interesting. So VDA monster, I have a kingdom of dwarves. Let me see. I want to make sure I pronounce that right. Okay, so I have a kingdom of dwarves that are actually teetotalers because alcoholism almost destroyed the realm. So they created the best tasting, magically infused hot chocolate that is non alcoholic and takes on the flavor of your favorite candy bar. Oh, I like that a lot. That's interesting. That's so interesting. I wonder if because it's a magical thing, it could change depending on what someone is in the mood for that day. Like if they were in the mood for a chocolate bar versus they were in the mood for like a Reese's cup kind of thing. Anyone that does ask for brew is quickly asked to leave the establishment, said VDA Monster. See this? Yes, I love this. Give me world building that's emphasized on food and drink and such. That's so clever. Yeah, yeah. So again, Blair Brooks, a place like that would probably be more family friendly too. If you have a place that doesn't serve alcohol, it would reasonably make sense that you might have more families there. It might be less likely you would see that place around a bunch of adventurers, but it could be more likely you see that kind of place around general townsfolk. Which is why it like adds the question of what are the patrons more like? That's so interesting. I appreciate that. It's because it's like the world building. So I'm gonna click another generator and just see what it says. Uh, it gave me a couple different meals. One stewed bobcat rump, with served with aged pepper jack, peanut pie, naan with butter, and cilantro soup. And I don't really ever require my party to eat. Whenever it comes to like rations and stuff, it's not necessarily something I have them keep track of unless we establish beforehand we want to do that. We want eating to be something that like something that they're required to do. Something that I often do is that I reward them for role playing eating and maintaining their hunger and such. Um, I hope not. Um, and I do that because I, it gives when you reward role playing, it incentivizes people to be more comfortable doing it and do it more often. Um, there was an example where a party had actually hunted down, what was it? It was like a bison like creature. They had hunted down a bison like creature because they'd been traveling for days, and they saw a herd of them, and they decided they were actually going to like hunt it down. And one of the party cast create bonfire to create a fire to cook this bison on. The warrior had a spear, and they had like um, prepared the food and then put it on the spear and then like literally roasted it over a created bonfire that the spellcaster had created. And I loved that moment because it got to show them working together. It got to show them being creative and ingenuitive. And it was just a little bit of extra role play that was fun. And then it made the world feel alive. The world was alive because they looked for food, they found it, they prepared it, they enjoyed it. I actually ended up switching it around a little bit. I would sometimes give them temporary hit points whenever they eat. For a different group, I actually gave the party inspiration when they sat down and role played a meal because like it was something just an extra bonus. The inspiration could just be the extra reroll or could be an extra bonus to the die, and it varied depending on the group and the system. But it was fun, and they felt like taking those extra moments to add to the world and make it feel more alive rewarded them. And I felt like I was rewarded from getting to see them do these things, from getting to see them play. So Tiny Kiwi said Ryutama has a downtime of adventuring. It has stat bonuses for eating delicious meals and rules for cooking. That's awesome. So VDA, I wish more of my players would roleplay, so I do reward roleplay with items as opposed to just killing people and taking their stuff. They can still do it, but if you get more with good favor, like in real life. Yeah. So we talked about the food stuff, and I'm going to come back to that because it's going to reiterate stuff about making the world feel alive and flowing and actually proceeding. How about Caustic Chemist? I ran a game where a character was playing a bard, but their performance and art form was cooking. Oh, I've never even thought about that. And it created the sweetest and warmest scenes I've ever run. Just good, wholesome family vibes. Yes. That's genius. Yeah, and true. In Tasha's Cauldron, you can get it. You can order it through your local game store. You can get a copy of Tasha's Cauldron of everything on the Roll20 marketplace. It has a chef feat inside of it, which involves cooking, and I don't remember what it is. I think it was related to like temporary hit points and stuff. I'm very excited about that. In my Monday game of Rhyme, I actually almost took it. I ended up taking something related to the Eldritch Initiate, which allowed me to take a Warlock Invocation, and I can switch it as I level up, but I picked Eyes of the Runekeeper so I could read everything, because in a world where like we don't all have the different languages, and like there's been a lot of stuff for reading that came up, I was like, that's something good to have. But there was like I almost took the chef feat because I was like, I want to be able to create food, and we have a tavern now. We have a tavern. I really almost, I was this close. I'm actually very excited about it. VDA said, my Christmas seasonal game letter next month will in fact require the party to restore a tavern inn for a holiday party for noble teenage girls who want to see an annual unicorn race. The better the food they prepare, the more rewards. I'm actually very excited about that. I'm excited for you. Please let me know how that goes. Please do. So we talked about having the world feel alive. And food is one of the many ways to do it. And it's not that it's something required. It can be an extra step or an extra thought or an extra note of consideration. And if you've watched any of the other episodes of this show, you'll know that I am a big supporter of generators. I make a lot of generators myself. I'll make literally charts of ideas for myself just because of sometimes the improv, thinking of it on the spot. It is not, the gears are not spinning fast enough for me to think of all that at the same time. Is Owlbear steak fowl or beef? How dare you put this question in my head? How dare you? Beef. But so I make a lot of charts and I use a lot of generators, or I make my own generators because it can be very difficult to think of this stuff on the spot. Another thing that I like to do with world building is you see it often in campaigns, and you might not always know that it was happening. But using time restrictions in a way that is not intentionally designed to work against the party. So what does that mean? If you have a quest that is given to the party and you tell them they have, you'll have to do it soon. This thing is arriving very soon. I don't know the exact time, but I know it's incoming. And if you want to give a specific date to your party or a specific number of days or even like hours that they have, it can go very well. If you want to give them more, like curiosity or even like a little bit of misdirection about it, you can leave it open and loose. But yeah, like it's great for one shots. I use it very often for one shots. And often what I do is I'll either use real time as like a gauge for if things are going to happen, if they get there or not. And to literally no pressure of the party, because sometimes I'll say in my own notes, the party is aiming to go to this city. And if they get to this city before this person will be here. If not, this person is going to be in a different place. And so I like to do it in a way that it's not necessarily punishing the party for not doing things fast enough. My head is very warm. I have a lot of hair. Boop. This is fine. Not necessarily punishing the party for not doing the things, but it can sometimes be missed opportunities. Because they hadn't arrived in this amount of time, this person that might have done this thing went away. And it could be because they went to seek something out. But whenever I do these things, I very often try to make them aware so that when they make the choices in the future, they can at least have that knowledge. Or I'll even say, like right up front, I'll say directly, I want you all to know that even as you make choices, the time that you take to do something or not do something, I am still going to have the world be moving in the background. So if there was something that would happen at this town on Tuesday and you get there Wednesday, the Tuesday thing will have already happened. And I will try my best to make you aware of events, but that way so you can almost pick and choose how you want to do things. A ticking clock can be very ominous, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. Giving them the ticking clock, you can also give them the choice to actively miss it. They can actively choose not to do the thing so they can see what happens. Because sometimes giving them that pressure of the ticking clock, it might convince them they have to do all of these things. They have to get all of these things done or nothing will come beyond that. But if you tell them, example, if there is a dragon egg that is going to hatch within 3 days. And in Dungeons and Dragons, for example, the dragon eggs are usually tied to alignment as well as the type of damage that they do. So like fire, ice, good, evil, so on and so on. Telling them that there's a dragon that's going to hatch in 3 days. If they don't have the information of what type of egg it's going to be, it might entirely change what they do. If they know that this egg is a creature that's going to be a creature of good and that protects people, they might rush there to make sure the egg is protected. If they know this egg is going to be this sort of creature that might be evil, they might rush there to try to either destroy the egg or see what's happening with it. Or they might not go there at all because knowing that this is the egg of a creature that is evil, what laid the egg of this creature that is evil? If they go there and it's about to hatch, they might be putting themselves in danger. And even if you just specifically offer these options, do you want to get there? Do you want to get there before the egg hatches, or do you want to wait until after it hatches and then search the area? I need to take the cap off. Because so Omega Dorian even said, when I do the kind of thing, I add a new thing that changes the background world. And depending on what happens, I can end up with 5 to 10 stuff. Sometimes it actually helps them. Sometimes it hurts their reputation and then adds bad stuff. And yeah, VDA Monster. Maybe there's another faction looking for the egg. What are their reasons? It might not be in their favor to go there before the egg hatches. It might actually be in their favor to spend all that time researching, asking around, and getting to that point. And there are a lot of DMs, GMs, storytellers, and the like that do these kind of things. And my own personal preference is at least half of the time, I want to actively tell them what these choices that I have lined out for them are. I don't ever want them to feel pressured to do these things. but I want to bring it up so that they actively know what I'm thinking. And they might take a third route that I never even considered, which is always a plausibility. But I recommend doing that if you can, just in case they haven't considered the choices, because you might have outlined for them 3 or 4 different options of what this world is going to do. But they might not actively be aware of any but the one they see. Me mentioning this egg could literally be to them like, oh, well, we have to get there. We have to get to this egg now before these things happen. We have to get there or else we're going to miss out on the egg. But actively like prompting them, do you want to get there before the egg hatches, or are you going to wait until after it's hatched? Even if they never even considered the other one an option, they're actively hearing it as an option. They're hearing it as a plausibility, which could mean there's more to it. Giving the options and just making the world move in those ways. Sometimes you have bounty boards in games, and bounty boards can be hunting like a troll or an ogre that is causing chaos. So I get that on my Gadorian. It's hard not to have a bunch of ideas. But you have like a bounty board where a troll or ogre was causing troubles for a farm. And I love doing bounty board stuff too. There's plenty of creators out there that have made their own custom bounty boards, that have made little ideas to just post online for people to use. And what can be fun is taking those bounty boards and then come up with a bounty board for your party. Okay, yes, this is a challenge that I would like to make to any of you. Not even necessarily in the next game that you run, but potentially in one of the next games you run or you're involved in, or like mention it to your DM or GM and see how they feel about it. Introduce a bounty board. Introduce a bounty board that could have 2 jobs, 3 jobs, 10 jobs, whatever you feel comfortable with. And after that bounty board is introduced, use like a generator or find a list of other suggestions or ideas that people have made and use that and introduce like the world still moving on if you don't do the other jobs. So there is a job for helping a farmer who has had an issue with a troll. There is a job for retrieving a lost ring. There is a job for stopping bandits that have been bothering people on the road. So I'm going to write those down before I forget them because I know that I will. Troll causing farmer problems. Lost ring. Take care, VADA monster. Have a fantastic weekend. My players somehow F'd themselves into the far realm, which was in my head a 1 in 100 chance, but I thought it would be fun. Take care. But so, yes, we have like 3 different options on this bounty board. We have the troll causing a farmer problems. We have someone who has lost a ring. And then we have bandits who are also causing problems on a trade route. Those 3 options. And anyone that is here, I would like your opinion. If you have those 3 options, a troll is causing problems on a farm, a person has lost a ring and they're looking for someone to help them find it, or bandits were causing trouble on a trade road, which one do you pick? You can post it in the chat. Any of those on like YouTube, you can post it later, and because I'd like to see. And then I'm just gonna go down the line of what could happen otherwise. Someone to write trade road. So yeah, which one? Which job do you take up? Are you going to take out that troll that's giving the farmer issues? Are you going to help find that ring? Are you going to deal with the bandits on the trade road? So honestly, if you weren't even considering player level, if this idea is that they're all scaled to the player level itself, you are fairly adventured group of people. You are a fairly strong figure, and like any of these, like other than the ring, might be easy, but they might be difficult. Like, but it is, you know, that it will like player knowledge, you know there'll be scale to it. I didn't say the ring could be the One Ring, but I'm not saying it isn't. So let's see. We have... I'm just going to start putting some checks. Bandits. Troll. Bandits. Troll seems like yeah. So I'm gonna give it like anyone else that wants to say something they can. We've got like 7 suggestions. What do you think? I'm gonna give it like a couple more seconds while I hydrate myself, because I have a beautiful but terrible habit of talking too much and then talking like my mouth dry. So I've actively, whenever I do this show, I like always have 2 bottles of water within reach because I know myself. But the show has been great for making me drink water. So I want those bandits to be important. Okay, so here's... I'm laughing at it. You're terrible. Okay, so here's a couple ways that we can make this interesting. One, when your party picks a route, you can combine the other 2. So let's, this is going to be a couple ideas. Let's say you all pick the troll and you go deal with this troll situation. And the troll itself actually was going to the farm because the farmer had been using manure from one of the troll's pets. The farmer had actually gotten manure from like a gigantic dire boar or something. And like they were stealing the manure to put in their fields. And the troll just didn't understand what they were doing, but because they couldn't communicate with the farmer. So this troll was coming over here repetitively trying to have this conversation, the communication, and the farmer thought that they were attacking them. They thought that they were trying to do something. Make that little bit of communication and conversation so it doesn't even have to be a combat encounter. It's literally a problem-solving encounter, which could lead to the troll understanding what is happening, offering up this stuff freely, working with the farmer, and you could make this whole world-building aspect that now this farmer has even better supplies, has even better crops, has an even better field. The stuff is growing better, faster, more potent, larger because of having this consistent and regular supply to add to their fields to make their crops grow better, which then in turn makes the tavern have nicer foods and adds new items of food to the tavern now that they can properly supply them with more food. See how I brought it back? But you did this stuff, you fixed this issue, you took care of the situation, you brought it back, but you didn't take the ring quest or the bandit quest. So you start searching for this ring. Or maybe you don't. Actually, you know what? Let's not even from a party member point of view. As the GM, one of my thoughts might be, you know what? How can I combine the bandits causing trouble on the trade road and the missing ring? So one of my thoughts is bandits are consistently stealing things, or at least like often stealing things. That's like kind of why they're bandits. And someone is missing a ring. Where did they lose that ring? They didn't lose it in the trade road. And what if it turns out the missing ring was actually something that one of the bandits had stolen? But I don't mean like the bandits stole the ring from person. Okay, we're going to use Alan. Alan is the person who's like lost a ring. Alan is actually a member of the bandits that have been attacking like traders on the trade road. They've been taking loot and such and all these sorts of things. And one of the things Alan took was actually a ring. Now, Alan had planned to propose to his partner with that ring, which that's a whole separate point. But you know what, Alan, you do you. I'm not here to judge your choices. You have this ring, and depending on who you go and talk to first, if they decide to do any of these quests, it might change which point of view they have. If they go talk to the person who lost the ring, Alan, who was a bandit, they might be indirectly helping a bandit retrieve a missing object that they stole. If they go try to deal with the bandits causing trade, you know what? Maybe Alan's partner is a troll. Maybe the ring itself is actually much more of a circlet, depending on like general human size. But I don't know. But if you go try to deal with the bandits first, you might encounter Alan indirectly. You might encounter Alan stopping him from stealing more stuff on the trade route. So Cybernetic Lich, I also like to take a Blades of the Dark dungeon world approach and tick up a danger clock, especially when I'm not sure what to do next. Yeah, because even if they just see that something is going to happen, then it's like, okay, we keep going, we keep progressing. Sometimes it's nice to not have the danger feel, but sometimes the danger feel can also drive a party to do more, to move ahead, be creative. You can turn it off and on, honestly. You can switch it up. The danger clock might have been running for 2 months in game, and then something happened, and there's a pause. There's a lull. Oh, well, no. Like, not even misunderstanding. Like, it could be a giant ring. It could, because the ring could actually be, like, troll-sized. But if Alan doesn't say that in the list, you never know. So you're out here looking for, like, a ring that is this big, and it's actually, like, this big, which would actually be a very interesting twist as well. Oh, I love it. So we said what would happen with, like, if we did the troll thing and then combine the other two. There's plenty of other different ways we could do it. If they weren't related, the lost ring, like someone had mentioned, yeah. What if the troll lost it? What if the troll is the one who lost the ring? What if the ring is related to something entirely out there? What if the ring is a ring of power? Like, we don't have to go the full Lord of the Rings route, but what if this ring literally could grant wishes and the person lost it? And it doesn't even have to be that it was stolen. It could turn out that a small bird saw this ring and then put it in their nest because they wanted to build more of a nest, and they're like, ooh, shiny. But the party not searching for this ring, not delving into it, it could just disappear. So, Raptor Queen, what if the troll dropped it in the manure and the farmer took it? Hi, Sphinx. Hello. We're talking world building, making the world feel alive, quests, and if you take one, how do the others keep moving forward? But yes, you came at an interesting point, because we were talking about, well, Rowan said, can the bird make a wish? If the party doesn't focus on that quest first, what if that's the outcome? What if that's the world moving forward? What if they decide to take the lost ring, and it's like, you know what? The lost ring is the least interesting quest, but you know what? Let's go do that one. Maybe it was the best choice. Doing the lost ring quest means that A, they might get a wish, and B, then it means that this strange bird is not going to make a wish. Them not pursuing this magic ring means that the bird is looking at a worm and has a bird thought of, I wish there were more worms, and then because they didn't do the lost ring quest, maybe a large chunk of a forest like just has dozens of wriggling worms on the ground. And it's so weird. It's really weird. It's really strange. But it's such an it's such a strange moment that's really interesting. at least for like the moment of it's not a penalty to the party for not doing it. They're not hassled, they're not injured, they're not punished for not doing that quest first. But because they didn't do the ring quest, because the time passed forward, there's now a strangely large section of the forest covered in worms, including a giant worm. Cybernetic Lich said a Dune level worm. Like, there is a giant worm that is now just burrowing through the forest because they didn't do it. It's the world building of, you don't necessarily have to overwhelm yourself. Having a bunch of options is great. Having a few options and then delving into them in a flexible way is also great. Both are great ways to do it. Oh, that's so interesting. And so, you know what? If the bandits trade route, if you're not... Wait, is my green screen on? Why is that on? Stop it. Stop it. There's no green. It's only blue. Dabba dee, dabba do. There we go. Aha! I fixed it. We have the bandits that were attacking the trade route. If those weren't stopped, it could be that the next thing coming through this trade route was something powerful. It was something dangerous. It was something a little terrifying for bandits to get their hands on. It could be a magic portal to hell. I don't know. But okay, yes, so let me ask all of you. The party did not do the bandit trade route this time. And in doing so, in not doing so, I guess, there was something that they had no idea of that was really interesting or powerful or unique that was coming along the trade route. That because the party didn't stop the bandits this first time, the bandits actually got their hand on. What could it be? I said like a portal to hell, but like it could be a mirror that leads to a different dimension. It could be a thing that it could be a tentacle of Medusa that can temporarily turn people to stone for whatever reason. I say tentacle, but I could have just said snake. Okay. Kale Jahard said holy hand grenade. A relic with a god or ancient wizard trapped in it. See, that's always bad. Well, no, it's always bad. Because if the bandits have their hand on it, either the bandits are going to release them, and or the bandits are probably going to follow what they say and or release them. If they can. And that's how you get an evil villain. A Kraken egg. Oh, hell no. Sphinx Raw said a Kraken egg. I don't want it. I do not want it. That's horrifying. A Megadorian, a piece of creation that could merge all worlds with the Far Realm. That's dangerous. Because again, we don't know how advanced these bandits are. We could delve into that. These bandits could be extremely smart and calculating. They could just be foolish and greedy. But having a piece of creation that could merge the worlds together, it could literally be that now that the party didn't do that bandit quest first, it gets so deeply involved that now at random spots in the city, it seems like there's actually different planes of existence popping up for a moment. Inside of a tavern for literally like 10 minutes, there was almost a portal to a place of pure magma. In the middle of town, a gigantic chasm that just dropped down into an ocean appeared. Because they're blending the different realms together with whatever this piece that they have. And so the Raptor Queen, vague, but I'm thinking some kind of important item that ties back unexpectedly into a main plot. And that is perfect. Because you give them the option for these extra optional things, these extra things that they just want to delve into, and you bring it back into whatever way you want to blend it into the story. Delicious Mockery said it could also be something or someone good that was going to fix a problem in the city, but now the bandits are holding it or them hostage for a huge ransom. Something has been, you could add something going wrong into the, so they said like a healer that was going to cure the city of some strange new disease. This healer that was on their way to cure this disease that was plaguing people, putting them into like almost a comatose state, putting them into like a strange sleep, or a sleep where they needed to sleep like 10, 12, 15 hours a day. They lost most of their day. And this healer was coming to fix this. But now these bandits captured this person. And it's of no fault of the players. The players did not do anything wrong. And you don't even have to say it in a way... Actually, I would enthuse saying it in a way that emphasizes that. Emphasizes they hadn't done anything wrong. It is not their fault that this thing happened. Instead, phrasing that they can be the resolution. Or opening up, actually, the situation has gotten worse. If you can phrase it in a way that will like necessarily alleviate them feeling like they did something wrong. Because that it can be a hard balance with making the world move ahead. Feeling like you missed out on something. I struggle with that. It's really hard, especially when it comes to like video games. Like I like trying to at least 100% things. I've played Shadow of Mordor has an example where there's different world events. And if you do a world event and complete it, the other ones will usually advance forward. And it's not bad. It's actually really cool. But then I'm just like, I'm going to pick this one. So if you emphasize, like if they decide the next quest they take is that bandit quest and they get into it, you can even vocalize it. Actually, there's been adjustments in what the quest requires. It looked like the bandits have captured a citizen that was on their way here, a healer of sorts. The healer was going to cure many of the sleeps that have affected the people in this city. Are you available? Do you have time? And then adding on to it. It could be that, like, even if the party doesn't do anything, the person is rescued. How are they rescued? Who rescues them? Is the person that rescues them a fellow adventurer or a competitor? Is it actually the healer that came back? Is it somebody else? There's so much stuff that can come into play when you're building this world and making it live and moving it forward. There's no single way to do it right. And it's fun just figuring out like what ways you want to do it. So we've talked about food. We've talked about like different quests to move the world forward. Something I haven't really talked about is I talk about a lot of the general ideas that I have for stuff, but I haven't ever told you my general like world building process if I'm making a one shot or something. A Megadorian, did the person who rescued them throw a turkey? Fun ideas for food as a weapon? I'm here for it. Improvised weapon. Use a turkey leg as a club. I support it. I love that. So if I was building a one shot for something like this, let's see, a one shot based around there. Yes. So there's going to be something the other party has to stop. And it's going to be not necessarily a cataclysmic event, but something that is big enough and dangerous. Wait, what did that censor? I said probably. Whatever. A one shot where there is, yeah, I like the idea of actually something is going to happen that is causing the world to blend together. Like the realms are blending together for whatever reason. And it could be that they don't know this necessarily at the end of the one shot. We're going to lead them into this We're going to open up in a tavern and start it out that way. And then I'm going to take some of the stuff we talked about before and just build in on this one shot. So we have them starting in a tavern, and the tavern has, and this is where, like I mentioned before, the generators do that. They're sitting in a tavern, and in this tavern, there's a couple things on the menu. You can get... I need it to load faster. It's loading very slow. Irrelevant. In this menu, there's boiled leek, spiced potatoes, artichoke soup, pickled beets, pickled sausage, and all sorts of ale. What do all of you order? And I'm leading with that for the world building because I want them to see, like, there's actually a decent variety of stuff here. There was a bunch of vegetable options. There wasn't very much meat options initially, but they have these ideas that they could use. Right off the bat, they have this, and then we get an introduction of, as they're ordering food, what the party is like. So, all of you have come here today, and you actively want to become better known adventurers. And the best way to do that is to, well, check the bounty board. Check the quest board. So we're leading them into the quests of the different options they have, the different stuff that they can do if they want to. And again, this is just like a one-shot idea, but leading into it. So they pick a quest off the board. And like we had those different options. We had the troll farmer, the lost ring, and the bandits. Now, no matter which they talked to, we can, as someone had said, lead it into the main plot. So they go talk to this troll and they resolve this situation. They talk to this troll, and after the troll actually converses with them, the troll mentions that something has been wrong in the city. It has been smelling wrong. It smells like something else. It smells like a different place. It's a problem. And like, it doesn't have to just be smell. We can lean into like adding the troll is more descriptive on this other realm that's merging. And when they went to the troll, because they didn't do the other two, the bandits on the trade route, maybe they get that person who was preserved, that god or elder wizard that is preserved and trapped inside of something. The person that, if had safely made it here, could have helped solve this issue sooner than later. Maybe they were being transported here because the person that runs the city knew what was happening. They knew what was happening and they needed that outside assistance. The lost ring could literally actually be a fragment of another realm. Another universe. And finding that and holding it and grasping it could literally be what helps fix it majorly. But because they didn't get the ring, the bird instead found this ring. So the bird, where that gigantic worm comes from, the thing that this bird is wishing for or wants, is actually a different realm, a different world where this creature was prevalent, being pulled into this material plane. If they go for the ring first, they get a hold of this ring, and then maybe the person who holds the ring, they get something similar to like ethereal sight. They see a different realm, and they see like very much fragments of a world that's shattered. Or they can see where the fragments are going to appear. For the people generally just standing there, everything looks fine. But for the people wearing the ring, they see what looks like gray smoke slowly rising out of a spot in the ground, which is symbolizing that's where a tear is going to be. And if they go do this thing with the bandits, they'll stop that figure from being taken, from being kidnapped. They'll actually get a chance to talk to them. Maybe they would. That's the question. There's plenty of things that could happen from them having that ring on. But they stop the bandits from taking this person, and they actually get a chance to talk to them. This person maybe tells them, even more just bluntly, there are tears happening in this city that is ahead. I cannot stop them, but I can guide you in a way to maybe push them back a little bit more. I can slow them down. So it's like there's a bunch of different ways that you could reward them for this if you want. And it's okay if the rewards are all different. They don't all have to be like the same kind of similar thing, because then it's still rewarding them for something. And the stuff that they didn't do, that's going back to what I was talking about. The world's still moving forward, even if they don't do things. If you wanted to give them the chance to go back and do those other things, they still could. But then they have to make that choice of, do they investigate these things or do they focus on this job? If you give them a amount of time, if you give them a sense of like, it seems like it'll be a week before these tears really get to a cataclysmic scale, that timer gives them flexibility to figure out what they want to do next. And say, example, you put, there's a time limit on how long quests can be on the quest board. Maybe the other 2 quests are only allowed to be up there for another day, which means, oh, well, if we don't do those soon, we won't be able to do anything. We won't be able to come back to them at all. You might try to incentivize them to do these things in limited amount of times, because there are only so many times they can take the jobs. There's so much. I could talk about this for hours. I could talk, yeah. So I'm very excited about this, as you can probably tell from my like disposition and reaction of this stuff, because world building is my peanut butter, jelly, and jam. Yeah. Well, okay, I have talked a lot. I have talked a lot at you and partially with you. I said in the very beginning, if you have any questions, feel free to put like question in all caps and then have your question follow it. If you have questions, please feel free to ask. There was a question that someone had asked me before the show. And so one of the things that said, do you have ideas for penalties for PCs who like to get drunk at the local tavern? Rowan Miss, we're here to listen to you talk for hours. How dare you? So someone had previously asked me, do I have ideas for penalties for PCs who like to get drunk at the local tavern? Yes. One thing is, oh, awesome. Okay. Yeah. So there's a lot of status effects that already exist in games. And even if it's not the same, use variations of that. So like, for example, when someone drinks too much, a penalty, like something really, really necessary to be careful about, is alcohol poisoning. And you could literally scheme it that someone would gain a poisoned condition from whatever game system you're using that they would have gotten from literally getting alcohol poisoning from drinking so much, so heavily, if they're not paying attention. You could literally, and also, if you want to play into their personal resistances and like, how strong of a constitution they have, it could be effects that don't hit them until later. They could drink and drink and drink at the tavern, and they're not actually affected until later. You can make them move slower, because if they're drunk or intoxicated, their walking isn't going to be the same. They might be bobbing and weaving and switching and swaying, and as they're trying to get to a certain point, it might be that like it's like they're just walking is difficult terrain. They're not necessarily getting the same amount of penalties. Maybe they're getting a negative penalty to their attacks. And you could even do it on scales. If it's trying to roll like, how drunk is this person? You could literally like make yourself a little chart. On a 1, they just move half speed. On a 2, they move half speed and they can't attack as well. On a 3, maybe they have like if you're using D&D, disadvantage on checks. If you're using Pathfinder, they have a -10 to checks. That way they're closer to doing a critical failure. If you're using like Vampire the Masquerade, maybe they roll less dice than they would for their general skills. Maybe this time they roll 2 less dice to a minimum of 1. And like making a scale of that stuff. And then literally like, okay, you know what? Let's use a D4 and see how drunk the character is. And I rolled a 4, which would have been everything that I talked about. Moving slower, having it harder to attack, a difficult, like a penalty to their checks. Because there's plenty of ideas that you can use innately, but you can always add your own. Literally the alcohol poisoning thing, using the poison condition because they drank so much. And it's not something that I've really seen people do. And I'm sure that people have, because we live in a creative world where pretty much most ideas have been shared or come up in similar fashions, which is awesome, because if it comes up again and again, it means that we're thinking the same thing, and collaboration is huge. But yeah, add in the poison condition. See how they take it. See if it changes what they do. Or maybe they gain a resistance from doing it so much. I don't necessarily say that's the best idea either, but you can lean into it the other way. You can say that different things have different effects in certain ways, or different types of drinks might affect them more. Maybe if they're drinking specifically just rum, it's automatically going to be a 1 to 4 and something is going to affect them. If it's wine that they're having, you can make it like a D8, and the 4 to 8 is the penalties, and a 1 to 4, they're actually okay. They're a little buzzed, but you can gauge it as well. They also said, are there blue milk and or macaroons? Absolutely. I think is necessary. And food be an improvised weapon. I think food could be an improvised weapon. Especially if it's a fruitcake, because fruitcake can be ridiculously dense. But I love it. There's so much stuff. Okay, I'm just gonna keep talking about world building stuff. So Sphinx. How about a quest where a small fishing town wants help clearing a carcass that washed up on the shore? The carcass could be a dead kraken. What if the party doesn't help and the townsfolk try to clear it themselves? What if the meat is still fresh and this poor village decides to sell its meat off to other areas? What would consuming kraken meat do to someone? Oh no. What if that created a whole separate, yeah, like what if that created a whole separate subgroup that's very similar to mind flayers? Mind flayers, deep ones, like it, oh gosh. And you know what? It goes back to the tavern. What if there's only one tavern that sells it? Only one tavern has been the group, like in the close area, that has actually gotten that meat, because they were monopolizing it, and in doing so, the party has to investigate what is the common factor of all these people. They all ate at this place that specifically and explicitly was the only place in the area that emphasized seafood. Because right there, it's something that's like, yes. I'm here for that in so many ways. It makes them creative, and it also like enthuses. It's not necessarily punishing the party, and it's not saying there isn't ways to turn them back. It's not saying there isn't ways to resolve it, but it's saying the world is still alive. The world is alive. They're not at fault for something that they were not required to do. What happened is that not doing this thing showed how alive the world is. Sphinx, that's beautiful. Kraken meat is one thing. If you're going to go all the way, go up, and that's interesting. I want to run a one shot like that. What? So yeah, that's the underlying question. What killed the Kraken? We might have to make something happen. We might have to make something happen. Make a little Tabletop inspired. Honestly, the more I talk with all of you about this stuff, the more I plan out these ideas, the more we come up with these ideas. Like, we could make a handbook of our own. I'm not saying don't quote me on that, because I said it on the internet. You can quote me on anything. But there is a solid chance that like the more notes and ideas that we come up with literally just sitting here and talking, we could make pages and pages of stuff. I've always wanted to run a Toriko Monster Hunter food game. Oh, that's so cool. Tell me how much the Kickstarter is looking at. Oh. And so this, I love this stuff. I say it all the time. And I genuinely hope it's very clear how much like I actually love doing this stuff. Also, I hope that this has reminded you all, or at least given you all some like, I wanted this show to very often be something you could tune in for and talk if you were up for it, but you don't have to. But be around for it, where it's like, if you want to do some brainstorming or world building, it's a place to do it because we can talk about it. Because even the Raptor Queen said, world building dominoes. It makes a huge difference. There's all this stuff that like I have in my head and I want to talk about it, but sometimes I need to talk it through and I need to talk it out, and then I can like actively get my process through, which is like, that's why I like upload this stuff to YouTube. Because even the people that don't have time to tune in for the show, I want them to be able to have something they can listen to, sit and be like, you know what? I like this idea. The reason I talk about this stuff is because I want us to share these ideas. There is so much information and I like clever creations that we can come up with. Like Sphinx, that idea is awesome. So that was from Sphinx Rawl, SPINXRAL. I have no doubt that someone beyond just anyone here. Oh, that's awesome. I have no doubt that someone else here is going to see that idea, love that idea, and then build something off of it. Even if they just add that quest idea into what they have and they change it around to be more of their own. But that right there, sharing that notion, I had never even considered it. But it has stuck with me. So games for serenity. I've been working on these elements for a while. Cooking system grants temporary HP depending on the quality. Yes, it's fun. It makes people want to do more hunts. Then they get creative. Then it also makes we can even oh cool. Well, I'm happy to have you, Omega Dorian. Yeah, Lost Mines was fun. So like I love adding your own cooking systems and stuff, because something else that's super cool to me, Gabe, that is also sometimes a complicated aspect of world building, is flora, like plants. And you can do that for regions of, hi Alex. You can do that for reasons of plants are really interesting when it comes to world building, because you can consider, are they edible? If they are edible, what do they taste like? If they taste like sweet or sour, if they have like a taste that's almost resembling something else. And then when you have like the different plants that exist, maybe some of them are seasonings. Maybe finding these interesting plants or something out there, you bring them back to a tavern, so this tavern has a whole new array of spices. Some people love asparagus. Some people hate asparagus. But maybe you find something that is very akin to asparagus. You bring it back to this tavern. They now have like steak and asparagus dinners, which is a hit. And it's just... So that has me thinking. In the Monday game for Rime of the Frost Maiden, we're in the frozen... I don't know what to describe Rime as. I don't know if it's considered a frozen tundra. Ooh, bacon wrapped asparagus. Alright, we're going to come back to that. But we're in the frozen wasteland. So, like... Festival of Feasts... Please do. My Twitter DMs are open. I try to check them like every other day. I'm sometimes bad with like replying because honestly, social media can sometimes overwhelm me, and then I just hide and disappear and come back for days later. Yeah, you can check you. Yeah, Instagram is perfect. Same as Instagram. It's the my information is the same everywhere. GabeJamesGames across the board. So yeah, reach out if you have nerdy, fun, creative ideas. Reach out. I love talking about that stuff. Something I would like to do more is talk about stuff that all of you are doing in your storytelling. And like, I get so part of the reason that I like Roll20 for like whenever I set up my games is because you can add in like GM notes to character sheets now, which is so cool for me because if a player character wants to have like an allergy or like something they avoid, sometimes having all that stuff in the backstory can be a lot of information to keep track of. So now I can literally click the character sheet, go into GM notes, and write like is allergic to peanuts, and like emphasize that stuff inside of the game, and then it's cool and it's fun, it's cute. I'm excited. I'm never apologizing for my excitement because it is good to be excited about things that you're passionate and care about. Doorstop Gamer, I'm making a megafauna age campaign right now, and I'm trying to figure out plants for food and also herbalism and crafting since there's going to be no magic. Ooh. That's interesting. And that means there's going to be so much. There was a game that I can't remember what it was called. It was on Kickstarter recently, and it was a world where the ocean was a huge collection of dense trees. And then it makes my brain like, okay, what do they eat? How often do they eat plants? Can they eat the plants? What is happening? I have so many questions. Here's an idea. Make a physical menu for your tavern. So Delicious Mockery. Make a physical menu for your tavern and actually hand it out to your players. Ooh. Bacon wrapped stuffed chicken. I am jealous, Omega Dorian. That's so neat. Yeah, like print it out. That'd be cool. And you can make a couple. You can make a couple as you come up with like new ideas. Then they can go back to their favorite taverns and they have like that little, oh, that's cute. Don't mind me, just looking up things for menu image templates. So to bring it back, that's another thing that is really easy. Yeah, Wing Lioness just said it. You can make handouts for your menu stuff and literally just give them out to the players. And you could literally make a subfolder inside of the Roll20 thing that is literally just menus. I kind of want this really badly. I want a submenu of just a subbar of just the menus of the different places. So like not even listing the different towns, but literally just like menus, and then you can literally say the town it was in and what menu it was. So they have a list of the different towns that they want to go to by what menu it's related to. Yes. You should eat before the show. Wyvern meatloaf and potatoes. Yes, please. That sounds interesting. Also, one of the PCs has cooking proficiency. They can collect the recipes. Oh. Yes. Oh, I guess they can draw over they have edit access. How special being deep fried bullet. And so like there was like the official D&D cookbook that came out that you could literally use that as a reference. You can make your own creative ideas if you have actual recipes that exist. Sorry, I read something that broke my brain because it's really cool, and I'm going to come back to that Penflower. If you have actually recipes that exist, you can change the names. But Penflower just said something that I've never considered. Penflower said, "It's been fun looking up plant-based alternatives to things like leather armor," which is an amazing point because leather armor is using like leather. It is creature. And having plant-based alternatives to that is so clever. Cause like there's all kinds of like ironwood stuff that people will use instead of weapons, as well as can be used for armor, which is usually like, yeah, cybernetic lich, same hat. But it also makes sense if there's extremely thick and dense plants that could be used for armor. And with plants, it might even be a little bit cooler. Or maybe, okay, this is another world building aspect. Maybe there's another sense where the pieces that they use from creatures are things that they didn't kill them for. It's things that they literally were harvested in like a more ethical way, so to speak. If you literally had a creature who would shed its plates to make new ones, like, and they were like almost like armored plates, you could refine those down and then use that to create armor. Do you see my brain like running through? Because it could be something like almost like beetle like, but like there's like the concept of like turtles shedding shells and just wow. So Alex said, "My husband loves to cook for our game nights and offered to make the snacks that they have in game to give to the players." Well, when we're not playing Vampire the Masquerade, I mean, you could, if you're playing Vampire the Masquerade, and you want to do something like that, you could make, drinks with like red food dye or red food coloring, and like dip it in, and like hand it out, or like I don't know how people feel about jelly, but like that kind of stuff, or like use red food coloring on like pancakes. Oh, my brain is like running right now. Games for Serenity. I have something called Thunderroot. Please use. Glass trees created by lightning strikes. They can hold magical components easier and melts like iron. Whoo. Yes. Very cool. Thank you. I thought making a vegan world setting would be challenging, but it's actually really stimulating. So that's, you know what? That's going to be an interesting alternative. I want, later on after the show is over, I'm going to make a post asking people for vegan alternatives for leather armor. And I want to see what they say. Because that's fantastic, Penflower. And like Games for Serenity, I love that idea of the storm. I want to see more of it, because it doesn't need necessarily to be that like the world only has to have vegan aspects, but having the vegan alternatives can literally give you world building stuff. The player character doesn't even have to necessarily be a vegan, but it would be very interesting. And also, if like we're thinking of fantasy aspects and someone is playing a nature character, a druid, a sage, anything of that type, who doesn't necessarily want to be involved in wearing that sort of stuff, that could be the best thing. What if the druid doesn't avoid like metal, they avoid leather? And these are just, oh, I have so much to catch on. My brain is just doing interesting things. Questions about old food. I don't have any rules or anything for links like that, but I'll see what I can find. Cybernetic glitch. What if the town has to deal with an ancient dragon who gives them their old scales in return for something? Easy. Perfect. Perfect. That's interesting. Trolls donating their skin and bones to make armor since they regenerate. Like it's scary, but what if the troll agrees to like be put magically under and then recover? Mushroom leather armor and whoa, hold on. Mushroom leather. Whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Vegan leather made from mushrooms could mold the future of sustainable fashion. Because it's the root and not the mushrooms being used, the natural biological process can be carried out anywhere. It does not require light, converts waste into useful materials, and stores carbon by accumulating it in the growing fungus. Going from a single spore to a finished fungi leather product takes a couple of weeks compared with years required to raise a cow to maturity. Mild acids, alcohols, and dyes are typically used to modify the fungal material, which is then compressed, dyed, and embossed. And like there is expenses to the process when we come to the like bioluminescent mushroom leather. Hold a second. Hold up a second. Yes. And like a lot of people will eat mushrooms and prepare mushrooms as well. So you could literally have a combination like armor smith that makes leather armor as well as like a tavern that sells specifically mushroom themed foods. Because they're using the top of the mushroom for the food and the bottom, like the roots, for the leather. Ah! Yeah. Mushroom leather to the solar punk. There's so much room for world. I almost did a podcast like a while back that was me talking about things that I was excited about that was like very similar to Tabletop Tabletalk that I was going to call the mushroom. This feels relevant. Mushroom. Wow. Some plants have a very waxy exterior on their leaves so that rainwater slides off. So imagine a waxy leaf cape instead of an oilskin coat. I might talk to a few vegan consultants about world building specifically for like vegan alternatives in fantasy kind of stuff. This is so interesting. And thank you all for like having this conversation with me. This is exactly what I'm talking about when I'm saying like this is the kind of stuff that is so yes. It's so interesting, and it's the stuff that like I don't feel like I get talked about enough with. I don't see enough people delving into it. But it's so cool, and it sometimes just wasn't considered. Yeah. Because honestly, it's knowing the fantasy stuff, and I'm the person that I hate killing like wolves or anything because I'm a big dog person and it just makes me sad. So like I always avoid doing it. I'm the person that like if in a video game I have to like attack a dog, I'm a grown man and I close my eyes. um so like and like I I'm not necessarily a fan of like the graphic process for stuff. So like when it comes to like creating leather armor and stuff, it's a whole process and it's a lot and it's very interesting and involved, but like this is a really interesting alternative that would be possible. It's a really interesting alternative that makes it almost like more applicable to a wider range. Yes. And it creates a whole extra new world. A mushroom cap shield. There is like, and if you really wanted to, if you wanted to be like, well, it's a plant, it's not going to be as durable, you can literally you can thematically say that something only lasts so many uses. If you want to say that the mushroom cap shield breaks after blocking 10 hits, you can do that. But it's also nice to have a sustainable thing that they can use. Yeah. So like having a mushroom cap shield, maybe they can only block 10 things with it. Yeah, and it grows back after 24 hours. After amount of time, it grows back. Those first 10 hits it'll block. After that, it needs time to recharge. But the recharge is replenishing. It's growing back. This is the beauty of world building. But especially in a sense where you get to talk with other people. Literally now, in like a 20-minute span, we've built up a mushroom world. Maybe the mushroom has poisonous spores on the shield that if someone hits it with melee, it shoots out and stings them. So we made a whole subclass of leather armor just from mushrooms. I'm so astounded. And if that's all we could do with mushrooms, this is stuff that's like, this is stuff that's honestly pretty reasonable. The mushroom leather is a real thing that was an amazing realization. Do it. If you post stuff online, on Twitter, on Instagram, tag me in it. Tag me at GabeJamesGames. Tag me in it so I can see it, so I can talk about how exciting it was that we got to like have this moment and talk about it. Because we can create things. There's so many creative things we can do. Like the mushroom leather. So now what other interesting plants can we come up with? Because this is stuff that is tied into like actual reality and fact. The mushroom leather is a real thing. Sorry, I had music in the background and it just started bumping. I'm just brimming with excitement and happiness right now. So this is the stuff that's like tied into reality. What other stuff can we branch into? Because this is stuff it's related to stuff that's real. And oftentimes when we're building, especially in fantasy, we have that flexibility that it doesn't have to be. It can be strange. It can be odd. It could be a living plant that like combines back and front after being injured. It could be a plant that responds to hot and cold. Games of Serenity, poisonous elements, perfumes that have magical properties, cybernetic lich, the classic rose thorn whip. Omega Dorian even said nightshade. Berries that grow to use in specific ways, just like the good berry. What is the bad berry like? Does the bad berry injure you when you eat it? Can you make a bad berry pie? It's not poisonous, it just hurts you. Literally, one berry is 1 damage. And you put a whole bunch of berries to make a thin piece of pie and feed it to someone. Maybe it hurts them for 5 damage, 10 damage, whatever. But a good berry jam. That's interesting. There's in my game I have dream berries, which simply give you good dreams. Yes! Oh, I'm here for it. Groot, but make it D&D, said Rowan. There's if you don't know about it, in Dungeons and Dragons, there is a void berry. That sounds terrifying, Omega. In Dungeons and Dragons, there is a bag of beans item, and I've only gotten it once, but I love it. It's literally a magic bag of beans that you roll a D100, and after planting it, like, something wild happens. And it could be a pyramid, it could be a creature shows up, it could be a weird statue. But like, if that one bag of beans has this so much variety, what other strange things can, like in a world of magic, what strange things can plants do? Because plants can do so much in our actual reality. So there's even more stuff. Like Omega Dorian said, there's a chance that you have a void berry in your bad berry. Delicious Mockery, plants that repel or attract pests through their scent. Games for Serenity, protection from good and evil while you sleep is what a dream berry sounds like. Every episode we have of this show that we sit and talk and figure out this stuff and these ideas, I am so much more like genuinely reassured and reminded how much of a capacity we have to be creative. My favorite in real life plant is the one that gets mice to poop in it by producing a sweet tasting laxative. What? That's a thing? Charmberry, Stunberry, berries to increase saving throws. What about braided layered hair armor with strengthening chemicals? So that's another interesting thing. If you had like, because there is like shearing sheep and such. So if you can layer different types of creature fur, certain creatures almost assuredly have hardened like fur, hardened materials to their body. And they're like what would be considered ethical ways to harvest them, to like get them, to trade them. And also, give me more Venus flytraps, but big ones that are scary. So this was, we started talking about food, helmet hair. Yeah, yeah. Maybe your hair magically hardens and it literally like. Now I am protected. I am unstoppable. Gabe would have a very high AC right now. That's true. My AC, this is a +3 to my AC. You see this? I am impregnable. Why am I like this? My hair actually smells really nice. Gabe's, yes, it's my dread helmet. Ha! It doesn't require attunement. But like this is we talked about food, making the world go forward, and then we literally ended up on how much interesting stuff. Oh gosh, that's going on a GIF somewhere. We literally ended up on different ways that you can use plant life in your world, literally to make armor, food, magic. It's like if it's why I like the discussion part of the show. It's why like I could talk at all of you for 2 hours, but when I get to talk with all of you, it's what makes me also learn new things, and it helps me be more creative, and it helps me see new ideas, and it just sparks that like creativity that is one of the reasons that I love world building. If any of you watching this, if even like one of you made something after this conversation, that's what makes it worth it. If even one of you saw the stuff we talked about and was like, you know what, that makes me think of this, that's what makes it worth it. It's that collaboration, because we all are still going to come up with so many unique ideas off of a similar premise. We can add our own spins into it, our own creativity, or we might just be like, hey, I have this really cool idea. If you want to use it, please do. Like a bunch of you came up with ideas for people to share. Just make a druidic grove as much in character as you can. That's definitely how I create my plant sections. Walking the world in the mind's eye is the way to do it. I have a group that I lead called Mythic Grove that does a lot of like supplementary stuff for fantasy, and honestly, like this has inspired me like to make more plant related stuff about that. I am so excited and blown away, and this has set my day off in a great start. I am so excited. I think today is just going to be a little bit shorter, partially because I'm hungry again, and my creative brain is literally running. I have been making notes the entire time myself. So I'm just going to like go take some time for myself, sit with my dog on the porch, and I think I'm just going to write. My name is Gabe, GabeJamesGames. You can find me all over Twitch, Twitter, Instagram. Please feel free to reach out. If you make things that you're excited about sharing, please tag me. I want to see the exciting things that you make. If I think more of this, I'll probably post about this stuff. I love creating together, which is one of the things I love about this show so much. Whether you're a GM, whether you're a member of the party, we can all build these worlds together. And if I can motivate you to be more comfortable with an idea that you have, more comfortable running a world that you have, more comfortable creating, Dice Ogre, the VOD will actually be up right after this, so you can always check that out, because the VODs do stay up, which is awesome, and this should be up on YouTube in the next like day or two. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Tabletop Tabletalk. Next week, I'll have something very exciting for all of you as well. Again, you can check me out online. Thank you, Roll20, for giving me like the chance to have this conversation with all these people. And if you're watching on YouTube later, I hope that there was at least something exciting or interesting that you were able to get out of this. Whether it was talking about building upon your world, talking about the items and the menu, or talking about the fact that we can make leather armor out of mushrooms. Have a fantastic day. You are chaotically creative, and I am so genuinely looking forward to the next time we talk. Have a fantastic day. Take care.